I tell you about these predators. I show the evidence of these predators, and you guys are always so surprised when what you expect to happen with all of this evidence that they'll do their jobs and it doesn't happen. Well, that's because you're fucking lazy. You're welcome. All right. I'm not sure how much work you've seen me have to put in or how much time is wasted by having to wait on drug addicts who want to pretend that they're not on drugs. One guy told me he wasn't on drugs and then fucking pulled out his piff and puffed right next to me. I'm like, what the hell, dude? Yeah, that was Seth Jordan. Sorry about that. I had a bug annoying the living shit out of me. So we'll get to start off with a good start as far as their paperwork goes here. This good start starts off with Catherine Cias screwing up severely, but she did get my diagnosis correct, part of it. So this is the very first screen by the way, this is the information for the Kenzie Group. The Kenzie Group are the people that work for my attorney, Eunice Paisner. So this is the evidence that the stuff that was sent to them. Voila, magnifique. Yep. So Eunice Paisner was supposed to be my attorney. He was piss poor, useless, and a liar. What do you expect? He's an attorney. Um, so it says the address 330 Northeast Lincoln Street, Suite 100, Hillsboro, Oregon 97124. Phone number 971-357-5202. Office at thekenziegroup.com. That way, any investigator that needs to contact either of those two criminal entities may do so. All right. When it comes to this stuff here, it took other people getting involved and saying, hey, dude, these guys are pretending something is a delusion that any idiot can look up on the internet. Like, hey, psst, guess what? He's telling the truth. That includes Deputy Taylor. So Eunice Paisner had to get off his butt and pretend somewhat and get me this stuff. So we can shoot straight to the end of it if you want, but basically what it comes down to is they wanted to pretend I was trying to kill myself. And I told her over and over and over again, repeatedly, when she was asking me about killing myself, I told her, no. My God, that fucking pissed her off. Could you imagine being in the hospital? Your fucking back is goddamn killing you. You know, you've had to listen to a bunch of junkies, a bunch of drug addicts, a bunch of people selling guns, a bunch of people trying to vandalize the Tillamook Sporting Goods property, people threatening to kill each other, people going missing, some of them ending up dead, a few of them ending up dead. Not allowed to be overwhelmed, right? I'm having to deal with this guy stalking me from Hood River. I'm having to deal with a stalker named Molly when I first got here. And of course, there's Tom. God, that was a fucked up situation. That was 2022 with Molly and Tom. And that extended to 2023 when it comes to my stalker from Hood River. it extended into 2023. And there was a man I saw recently. It was likely a wrong identification. I was told that the the guy James Murphy had sold the vehicle, and I don't know for certain. This is all stuff I'm having to believe what people tell me, and sometimes people are full of crap. Anyway, obviously, it says Sean was brought to the emergency department by the manager of Denny's. Yes, his name is Mike McKinster, and he was aware of the abuse by one of his coworkers who she apparently felt insulted by the fact that I parked my car there and then went to Starbucks. God, what a sinner I am. Holy shit. Anyway, she was making things tough for me. I had to move back and forth between the parking lots, and this is Mike McKinster's idea, and that's what I was doing. The lady still kept messing with me. It just wasn't okay. And then I'm having to deal with the assaults, I'm having to deal with missing people, and I can post up a bunch of that stuff too. So it says Sean was brought to the ED by the manager of Denny's. He became upset and stated that he was being forced to kill himself. Well, being forced to kill myself is completely different. Completely different. When I say forced to kill myself, I'm going to show you this one piece of important evidence. If I can find the goddamn phone and everything that's buried. Now that one piece of evidence is going to put all of this into perspective for you. And although I try to show this to the cops, instead of taking it seriously, they tell me in person, oh, well, it's tough to investigate that. And then in court, they pretend that I'm delusional and schizophrenic. Not okay. So even though I've got a ginormous mess, it is super important to show that piece of evidence. And that's, oh, I found the right phone for it. What was making me freak out, okay, the thing that was really freaking me out, especially after my sister letting me know more than once about having to move because of stalkers, about people fucking screaming shit at her, and just, it's not okay. So, let me see. We'll go to Kylie, the TFCC investigator, because it's pretty easy to find stuff in here. Unfortunately, John Holland gave me the landline. I was court ordered prior to this situation. I was court ordered to send this stuff to the TFCC investigator. Okay? And you can see Wednesday, April 3rd. Oh, come on. Jesus Christ. Hello again, Sean. It says, hello again, Sean. I'm going to kill and rape your sister's kid and take a pic of my cock and its open gutted rib cage. Since you're a pedo, it might turn you on, but you still be sad that I killed your sis and her kid, though, I hope. That was Wednesday, April 3rd of 2024. This is not the first one of these that I had to encounter. It's not the first one of these that I had to try to turn into 911, turn into law enforcement by myself, only to get treated like I was schizophrenic or delusional and told to go to mental health over and over and over again. And even though Catherine C.S. wrote in here about my diagnosis being PTSD. And the manager had told her that I was in there because I was being forced to kill myself. You should read the rest of the messages here. Okay, this stuff is horrible. And yes, I do believe that the people who are sending this shit can absolutely gain access to my little sister and my niece. They've already done so. It's not just one person doing this. It's not just one nasty phone number. But what it says here, it says Sean was brought to the emergency department by the manager of Denny's. He became upset and stated that he was being forced to kill himself. So the manager brought him to the emergency department. In the emergency department, he denied suicidal ideations, but stated that he was unable to care for himself. Does that make sense? It absolutely does. Um, it also says brief social history, relationships, supports, respite options. It says Sean has been homeless for quite some time. He is on SSD. He has no family, friends, or support. He identified himself as at risk. He has been living in his car, but it is not legal to drive. He has been a victim of abuse as someone who is homeless. I'm fleeing abuse. She put that in quotes. He has been in Tillamook for 3 months and in Oregon for about a year. No addiction history was identified. Sean did not want to disclose treatment history. What I was trying to turn in is abuse, and she wasn't asking anything other than the do I want to hurt myself or others over and over and over and over again. That's all she cared about. She did not care about the fact that people were hurting me, were harming me, were threatening to kill my sister and my niece. After already getting in contact with my little sister in person, do you think that I am going to fucking chance this? No, I got a hold of Grace at Helping Hands and I sent her proof of it. And I sent proof of it to a lot more people. Now, what did the judge tell me prior to this situation? Because what they wrote here, this is from, let me see, 1/28, 2023. Okay, this situation right here, 1/28, 2023. Now, the situation here that I'm talking about, this is proof that they knew that it was bogus beforehand. This is the situation where I was assaulted in the hospital by a fucking doctor because this lady was being mean, talking down to me, being condescending, being extremely rude, and using a horrible tone. If you say that you want to hurt yourself, then you've got suicidal ideations. If you say you want to harm somebody else, you've got homicidal ideations. And here's a trick question for you. If somebody tells you that they are going to dismember your niece and send a picture of their cock in her open, gutted rib cage, do you want to kill the motherfucker? Hmm? I'd say that's a pretty fucking reasonable question. Not. When these people are telling me to kill myself over and over and over and over again, do I think about it? Do I think to myself, all right, this is a situation where they're presenting to me either they're going to kill my family or I have to pretend I committed crimes I didn't commit. And in any event, they just want me to kill myself. This is all they want is for me to kill myself. So it's a trick goddamn question. You always tell them no. You always tell them no. You always keep your eyes on the prize because the moment that they peg you with having a very human thought about what these disgusting pieces of shit are doing, I want you to remember that's April 23rd. That's obviously after this, after the Catherine Cias situation, which of course has Tammy Waddell's name on it. And we'll actually show it to you so you know that I'm not full of shit. Like, holy hell, what the fuck is wrong with this lady? Oh, here's the rest of it. No, I am not interested in fucking hurting people. But that's just because I think a lot about the people who hurt me, the people who hit me, the people who threatened my little sister. So when these motherfuckers want to play victim and pretend like I threatened them by trying to manipulate the English language into something that it isn't, I want you to take a look at the threat that is the screen holder for this. This is Dalton Crawford. This is another one of the sick fucking perverts that just wouldn't fucking stop. Just like Tim Beeson, just like Ted Bollinger, just like this Ixith profile on here, and the Ted Burner slash Fred Burner accounts, or the Shapeshift accounts that get on here and fucking harass me. About the stuff from Candace Bondurant, about being intimidated by the fucking cops. On her way to take her kids to school. And then when she was at work, I was the one who made the 911 call. I was the person that he should have spoken to. My little sister being followed by the cops after trying to help to turn in Scott DaCosta. That's what it was supposed to be. What it ended up being because of the screwed up situation there is me and Tara trying to counter Leslie Snell playing victim. She worked for Scott DaCosta. She lied on the protection order that she wanted to get against me. Claimed that she wasn't involved in any other court stuff with me. Oh my God, her name as the notary for the sheriff's department is on all of my stuff. All right, this woman lied through her teeth, knowing full well that the sheriff was going to prevent me from being allowed to go to court. So after 7 months incarcerated, 2 prisons, and the Scottsbluff jail twice, the Garden County jail, and a short layover, I believe, in North Platte to go to the bathroom because it was a 9-hour drive from Scottsbluff, Nebraska to Lincoln, Nebraska. I'm fucking tired. Brian, I gotta get some goddamn sleep. That's what I need at this point. I'm going through this stuff because I got to. I haven't even started going through the videos for trying to fucking find out whatever it is that Mike was supposedly said that Andrew was cornering him and threatening him about. So Brian did come by way earlier. Uh, did what I shouldn't have done. I gave him $100 so he could go get a telephone. He didn't show up until way fucking late. He was gonna come right back with the telephone. He showed up over 2 hours later, almost 3 hours later. Then he came and yelled across the yard that he was here, which is super rude. Um, Said he was taking his dog back. He was supposed to go get the telephone and come right back. That definitely didn't happen. And then, of course, he said he was going to bring his dog back. So he went and took his dog back. And then he tells me he's going to be fast. Oh no, dude, give me the money. I'll be fast. I'll be fast. I'll be fast. And what I'm expecting is for him to come in here in possibly 2 to 3 hours or probably in a couple of days. He has at least tried to show up. I half expected him to not show up today. I expected him to possibly be in jail. I don't know how all of that goes with his case. Now, this lady's assessment, although she completely screwed it up, with what I'm having to live through, obviously I'm not going to be well kept. So they took a bunch of pop shots at a bunch of stuff that they either A, lied about, or B, were just complete and total assholes about. I tried to turn it in. She typed mild persecution thinking, but let's see at the very bottom there. Mild persecutional thinking, but with some basis in reality. The reason that she had to write down the some basis in reality is very specifically because there is a man who, and although I have been very unhappy with him, some of his choices, I do understand that they were out of misunderstanding of the situation. I know that if I use the word ignorant, that's taken offensively by pretty much everyone but me. I am ignorant of a lot of things and I admit it. So, what's so important about this very first one? Which it also sows the seeds for the bullshit later on. It also goes to show that yes, they were aware that the abuse was there. They just weren't aware of how much. They didn't bother to see. Catherine Cias didn't care. What Catherine Cias cared about was having somebody locked up on suicidal or homicidal ideations. Once that happens, you're all of a sudden the bad guy for having a natural reaction to abuse. My natural reaction isn't to go out and fucking kill people. That's fucked up. That's not okay. My natural reaction isn't to think the way that you guys do. Now, if you look at the message from Tim Beeson, and you also look at the one from, um, God, what's her name? Missy Bruce or Veronica Bruce. The things that were typed with her about how, well, I went to her because I needed a professional. Brenda Dickinson very specifically was sending me to Veronica Bruce, aka Veronica Seward, aka Missy Seward, aka Missy Bruce. Call her whatever you want. She worked with Region 2 and also later with Region 3. Um, so I was contacting her about something professional, which is why I was trying to explain to her it was about something professional I needed her help with. But when she called me, she was already fucking slobbery stupid from drinking. And whether she drinks every night or if it's just once in a great while, I know that it wasn't a beer. I know the messages between her and I at the time said that it was a wine cooler. But, if you're a lightweight, that's enough. Now, then I also know that there's people like Christopher Tapp in Boulder right after Natalie was killed. And he was supposedly going to help me. And I was staying in his trailer with him and his no longer girlfriend in their trailer. And he got so drunk on Jameson. Later on, he wanted to say the same thing that Missy did. It was only one drink. I only had one drink. Missy wanted to treat me horribly because she set it up to talk to me in her personal time, even though it was something I needed her full and undivided attention for, being physically assaulted, being separated from your loved ones. And then, of course, there was the situation with the opiates that Brenda Dickinson was on that made it so that she just wanted to talk a whole bunch of negative stuff, talk about her poop, and then talk about, praise the Lord, please God, help take this spirit of negativity out of me, and then back to talking about how she couldn't poop. It was very difficult. There's just too much. Brian came back again, and then he stood there and was holding on to that and saying he was going to have a seizure because he lost his wallet. I suggested that he could, because he's got a lot of pockets, a lot of pockets. And he just kind of stuck his hand in one pocket and it wasn't there. Now, for me, when I have something specific I'm used to feeling in my pocket, I know immediately when it's gone. Um, Mostly. And like I said, when I lost stuff in here, I was pretty sure I lost it in here. Just like, well, I found my wallet in here. It wasn't stolen. Also, I cut people off before they started accusing Brian of stealing it because I already knew that moving stuff all around in here over and over and over again, stuff just gets buried. It falls off the side of the bed or it falls between the bed and the counter. It's a funny name for it. It's actually a container to put more legal papers in, and some of this stuff that I cut up and stuck together with some uh, bamboo rods and holds together pretty all right. So there's a nice lady at the food court here in Tillamook. If you're facing north and you go to the very back on the north side, on the right hand side, which would be the east side, there's a big trailer there and it's facing west. And the ladies who are there are super nice, and they one of them gave me some cans, and I'm sorry for going OCD on you, but the lady who worked there today gave me a couple of cookies. Um, I don't often go down and do that, but I do believe in supporting local businesses, despite the things that I have to say. I'm sure that looking at what I'm going through, you can understand why I'm saying those things, why it is that I'm angry. Somebody sees something on the internet, they believe that it's true. They just want to assume that what Natalie Bollinger's mom said and what the detective said was true. And then there's all the evidence that they completely fucking lied out their asses, and you can see that. What we need now is the full footage from the cameras from the Matthew Peterson interview with me. Um, it's peanut butter. Good for calming down. So, what I was told by the courts before the next piece of paper I'm going to show you with Mary Lindsay and John Holland and a lot of other people. Shit, where did I put it? Oh, I'm so fucking tired. Let's hurry up and wait. People are on tweaker time, and you're not allowed to say that. Whether they're on street drugs or prescription medications, it's kind of like the situation with the heroin addicts, with them just wanting to lay back and go to sleep and be left alone. And then they end up with constipation problems. And it's the same thing when you're on stage 3 cancer meds that are derived from the same plants. And Brenda Dickinson doesn't recognize that she's exhibiting the same addictive behaviors and issues as somebody shooting up on the streets. Going to Missy, even if it was just one drink, and it's very rare that she gets time to herself and time alone, and she was painting that room, and she was just having one beer, she claimed. You get to see that the date for that one and the date for Tim Beeson coming out of the closet about being Tim Beeson, instead of calling me up and telling me that he was going to kill Jamie and he was going to kill Zyler and he was going to kill my sister. And, well, actually, at the beginning, he didn't threaten to kill my sister. At the very beginning, in 2016, when I left Virginia, it was um, people threatening to uh, kill Jerry and Jerry's children, um, and Lana Ingline and Amanda Ingline, and basically the people that I was typing about what a fucked up situation it was. I was trying to get people to understand I'm being harmed over something that I should have been allowed to walk away from. If people are on drugs, that's not my fault. If they can't stay off the drugs, that's not my fault. When they say that they're clean and it turns out that they're not, that's not my fault. When their family is trying to push them to kill themselves, that's not my fault. When I told her that people were trying to push me to kill myself, trying to force me to kill myself, yeah, they fucking are. Andrew Wolnez isn't the first disgusting person I've had to deal with in my life. Like, I'd be a pretty good asset for just about any law enforcement agency that needs to be able to deal with just about any sort of nut job there is. I was stuck in the system in foster care placement until they ran out of temporary foster care placement to put me in the state of Colorado, and literally had nowhere else to put me except institutions. So I mean, I grew up with the most fucked up people on the planet. Well, pretty close. You think the juvies are the scary places? They're not. The mental institutions are the scary places. Your little girl's in there because she fucking scraped herself with a lady Bic or a Lego. Yeah, I'll tell you about that story sometime. And you're in an institution where you've got another kid who's in there, and he's in there for killing his fucking grandparents. So, I mean, you got to put this in perspective for a 7-year-old to go into a system like that. I went into Centennial Peaks, I believe I was 6 years old. Now, I was going to read the important notes, but we need to get back to really on cue what we're dealing with here. Like I said, I don't just have evidence against all these other folks. It's the fact that they were so sloppy about what they did. Like Deputy Taylor said, anybody could look that up in 5 minutes. I was like, yeah, but Deputy Taylor, they're claiming that they didn't. They're claiming that Natalie's a delusion. They're claiming that the assaults that are on my YouTube channel are delusions. And when you walked away while investigator Raymond was there, and you didn't hear what she was actually saying, and you went off and walked your rounds, you missed out on an opportunity right there to make sure that that was investigated, to make sure it was taken seriously, to make sure that investigator Raymond didn't abuse her position of power, to make sure I couldn't get an honest court date, to make sure that I was treated like an animal, treated like less than a human being, interrupting me over and over again to tell me what a hurry she's in. She didn't show up willing to hear my side. She showed up with the intention of talking over literally everything that I said, making excuses for her coworkers who committed felonies to keep this shit out of court. This is why we're gonna show you this part right here with Catherine C.S., and then we'll show you the last page where it says what my diagnoses are. According to them, it says extensive period of time homeless and targeted abuse due to this status. Well, also Natalie Bollinger. Quick escalation followed by an inability to manage behavior is a trauma exposure symptom. Well, no shit, Sherlock. And again, this is 1/28/2023. This is after I'd already been to the hospital trying to turn stuff in and had been given instructions, and I show those instructions in every one of these. And you can see this. There's the diagnosis right there. Sorry. Kathy Arancias, Tammy Waddell. So they were aware of the situation of the abuse. They knew that it was real all the way back then. They just didn't care how serious it was. They saw a gold mine. They saw an opportunity. They saw money. When they saw a homeless man come into town with no friends or family, they saw money. So the next time that they admit in this paperwork anything about that stuff, we're going to read that one for you. Let me see. I believe it is the one with, let's see, this one's with Mary Lindsay. I'm looking for the John Holland one. All right, there it is. All right. So, John Holland. 4/22/2024. Yeah, this is March. What happened in March? Well, you've already gotten to see that there's video evidence of the situations and audio recordings of the situations, the assaults by John John Stevens. Um, there's also the multiple situations with other people in that situation with Andrew Wolnez. And of course, Andrew Wolnez's excuse was Natalie Bollinger, now wasn't it? We're also going to start going over the stuff at Safeway again and make sure that we go over that for people to review. But it says right here, this is from John Holland. This is after I've been ordered to turn all of this stuff in to the investigator. And the instructions that I've been given are to, I'm supposed to send screenshots of the stuff that's happening and links to videos and whatever else to this number. John Holland gave me the number. The number was a landline. And I'm told that I'm supposed to send all this evidence to this lady, right? So I start sending it. It doesn't tell me that it's not getting through. And that's the phone that I was literally just showing you that threat. That's actually evidence that I was sending it to her. That was being sent to the lady at TFCC, to that investigator's number. And if you've listened to the recordings with her on this channel, you know that that's a landline. So while I was court ordered to send this evidence to the TFCC investigator, they started pretending I was threatening to kill people. It was fucking glorious. It says, Holland, John, 4/22, 2024, aid and assist. So I had to go 14 days without an attorney while they basically did whatever kind of physical and psychological torture they wanted to me while I was stuck in booking the entire time. Treated completely inhumanely. It was fucking horrible. And they had to drop the charges and let me out and pretend that I was schizophrenic and delusional and try to have me locked up and pretend that I have, well, let's see. It says, and I believe actually that Mary Lindsay's was before this, but we'll see it. It says, this writer interviewed client over the phone regarding a request for a community consultation. It said, due to client's recent aggressive and threatening messages to the weekend worker, this assessment was completed over the phone. Well, I call bullshit. Also, let's go ahead and take a look at the phone number that I was given by John Holland to get a hold of this lady. It's the TFCC investigator. And when I show you that, we'll scroll through it and you'll get to see how much I sent to this lady. And I'm sure that you'll understand that I was super excited to have somebody that I could send this evidence to finally get it into the courts, get it seen. No, it's a fucking landline, and John Holland didn't bother telling me that. Didn't bother telling the courts that the number that he had given me was a landline. And you listen to Kylie, the TFCC investigator, in our conversations. Well, she stated very clearly that she had no idea that I had sent any messages because it's a landline. So, after sending literally dozens of links to actual evidence because I was ordered to, and it was obviously not going anywhere, and also making calls to Kylie, the TFCC investigator, nicely and getting no return, and having to deal with the bullshit with Benjamin Fishberg and his investigator for the courts over this stuff, before all of this, weren't doing their jobs. They were playing this game. It was 2 weeks before court, and his investigator had me backed into a corner by me being threatened with police action, with harassment, because the man doesn't work for free, and so on and so forth. So Benjamin Fishberg is telling me to do it anyway. Well, that's fucking entrapment. Hell no. Not a fucking chance in hell. It's a lot of stress all at once. And of course, me being treated like I'm schizophrenic and delusional over assaults that anybody can see, over things that anybody can look up in 5 fucking minutes. Yeah, I'm being abused over slander. So you look it up and you watch these Natalie Bollinger things, and you don't know what's slander and what isn't. You don't know what's used out of context and what isn't. You don't know what the truth is and what isn't. So who do you believe? Well, I'd say believe the motherfucking evidence. Like, holy shit, that should be the staple of American law. The evidence. If a police officer can assault you and then arrest you and have you sent to prison 9 hours drive away, just because you tried to turn them in, keep you incarcerated in prison for 7 fucking months. That stuff in Colorado was horrible. That stuff in Nebraska was horrible. That Scott DaCosta in Nebraska, his department was involved in the Natalie Bollinger situation before Natalie was killed too. So he wrote, this writer interviewed client over the phone regarding a request for a community consultation. Due to client's recent aggressive and threatening messages to the weekend worker, this assessment was completed over the phone. After the interviews, records were reviewed. Everybody makes typographical errors. We'll try not to hold it against whoever typed this. Records were reviewed and the report written. The report was then emailed to opposing attorneys and submitted to the Tillamook Circuit Court. Imagine that. John Holland. He wrote, assessment. Client presented with multiple paranoid delusions related to the police and agencies in Tillamook. Ooh. What were these so-called paranoid delusions? Would it be that I'd gone to all of these places and they'd sent me around in circles literally for years? Would it happen to be that this on, what does it say, 4/22/2024? That is well over 2 years. Well over 2 years after I was given this at the Tillamook Hospital with my name on it. And of course, there's the date. Again, there's my name. There's the date. 11/19/2022. What have I been doing this entire time? It's difficult to be able to do all this when you try to turn it in and they're like, oh, you got to go to TFCC. Oh, you got to go to CARE. CARE is supposed to help you with this. Oh, do you have this piece of paper? Do you have that piece of paper? Oh, your piece of paper is not on the right type of parchment. I'm going to tell you something about abuse. Okay? Let's say there's a boy who's got Down syndrome. And I'm sitting at my table, I'm eating my dinner, and he comes into McDonald's and is at the table next to me. He writes down on a napkin, my name is Adam. I'm 21. My mom is going to take me and beat me when she gets back. And I can't say anything, please help. What am I going to do? I don't give a holy damn what you write it on. Hell, while I was in the jail, you can ask Deputy Moody this. I literally tore words into their bags, tore the names and the dates of the things that I needed to remember. That's what I did with my lunch sacks. I tore them up and made sure that I used them to document the situation. I don't give a fuck what you write it on. When you take that stuff to a mandatory reporter, they need to listen. They need to not treat you like it's a schizophrenic delusion. By the time I got this right here, I was already trying to turn in Lynn Lothman. By the way, I've got video evidence of this situation where Lynn Lothman showed up, and I stated over and over again at the Tillamook Hospital that that was illegal. It is illegal for him to be there. He didn't care. It's kind of like a protection order. He just marched right fucking through it. Oh, the law says I can't be here? Well, I have a badge, so I'm going to march right through that. Imagine having to turn in Lynn Lothman to himself. Holy fuck. So what's the difference between the first one and this one right here with John Holland? John Holland was also looking at a potential prison sentence, if anybody listened to me. Tammy Waddell was looking at a potential prison sentence, if anybody listened to me. If anybody listened to those videos or the recordings when I went in and spoke to them in person, when they bullied me and even laughed at me because, well, they didn't think they were being recorded. And then I'm told that those aren't admissible in court. It doesn't matter that they bullied me. That's not admissible in court because I didn't tell them that they were being recorded. With all due respect, how do you think I fucking busted them? See, here's the thing. If they know they're being recorded, they play stupid. Or they do their best to play stupid, but something always slips out. When they know that they're not being recorded, holy shit, the behavior that comes out of these some bitches. I swear to fucking... Oh. So this is years later. And he's pretending that these are delusions related to police and agencies in Tillamook. And although I've posted them up a whole bunch of times, I do want to find that telephone and absolutely show you how much that I actually sent to her. And I sent what I was told to. And of course, I also posted up videos. What we're going to focus on now is the evidence that what I told them the first time is that people are trying to force me to kill myself. They're trying to bully me into killing myself. There is a very big difference. Why am I bashing my skull off the goddamn wall? To draw attention to this. Now let's show you how much there is. It says Monday, April 15th, 2024. Yep. That's how much earlier I was ordered by Judge Trevino to send this information to TFCC, to get it into the hands of TFCC. So I made phone call after phone call. I called multiple people at TFCC to try to find out what was going on. I was also sent in circles to a whole bunch of people who were supposedly the TFCC people. So, of course, with all these messages being sent to me, and I'm sorry if it's not, I'm trying to find a way for it not to have a glare on it, but there's a bunch. I was told to send screenshots, so I did. I was told to send video links, so I did. I was told if there was stuff that people were saying to me, type it, write it down, send it in a text message, and that's what I did over and over and over again. Over and over and over and over. And I want you to imagine how many hours it took me to be able to dig all this stuff up and dig it out and get it sent to this investigator, only for her to pretend that That what? That this was me threatening to kill her? These people were literally sending me messages saying things like, well, like they're going to kill me. I sent her evidence of the dismissals and of the stuff with Marcia Estrada. I sent her a lot of evidence. I sent um, evidence of the assaults, evidence that I couldn't send this stuff unless it was a short message, evidence of Chris Stafford violating the protection order, Wolnez violating the protection order, just over and over and over again. Or of course, there's Moss and Vajan. We'll play this one for you.
You don't get me confused, man. I ain't no fucking PC. I'll stab you right in your fucking eyeball and show you your fucking ass.
And of course, there's the other stuff that I'm literally typing what I'm supposed to be typing. I'm sending what I'm supposed to be sending over and over and over. So I'm sending this stuff, and it turns out that the supposed threat that they were claiming obviously wasn't from this if she never saw it because it's a landline. I mean, there is so much in here. A lot of people that fucked with me. Oh, you're going to love this one. It says with a crime rate of 41 per 1,000 residents, Tillamook has one of the highest crime rates in America compared to all communities of all sizes, from the smallest towns to the very largest cities. One's chance of becoming a victim of either violent or property crime here is 1 in 24. Of course, that was taken in 2023 or 2024 before I was arrested. So, what kind of crimes am I dealing with? Violent crime, property crime, and of course, corruption. So, that's Kylie, the TFCC investigator. Let's show you what her actual phone number is. This is one of the people, one of the predators that I have to try to turn in. They did everything that they could, herself included, to make every excuse not to turn this stuff in the way that it needs to be turned in. The people who did this did it on purpose. They did it knowingly, willingly, and intelligently, and with free access to the evidence. I've been posting up on YouTube because I believe in telling the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. If I shit on your floor, I'll admit I fucking shat on your floor. Just a landline. So, of course, hundreds of hours of digging through stuff to send it to her. It absolutely got nowhere. Would you be frustrated, especially if this stuff was still happening while you're having to dig this stuff out, while you're having to look it up, while you're having to send it to an investigator and call her up and ask what the hell is going on? Where are you? Why aren't you investigating? I'm going to get in trouble if you don't. I'm supposed to send this stuff to you. Hey, lady, I'm literally sending you examples of what I'm going through. Finally, I said, fuck it. All the different numbers that were on there, I just made one fucking message and fucking sent it out to all of them. I was like, this is the shit I'm fucking dealing with. Blam. Not that it fucking matters. Nobody gave a shit. It says here's more with Christian. I can only send 2 minutes of video per text. And the next ones you will get to hear them youngins calling me the N-word using a bullhorn. You guys have gotten to hear that in these series of videos today as well. But then there's the reality of it. Like, yes, I followed instructions and I got treated like I was schizophrenic and delusional. And do they write down specifically what they're pretending is a delusion? I mean, obviously, if you've listened to the conversation with the actual conversation with Kylie at TFCC from after I got out of jail, because I spent 14 days in jail. Then I was put on a 180-day civil hold that I was only on for 5 days. Then I got out of jail. The day that I got out of jail, or they took me from the jail, instead of releasing me like they were claiming that they were going to. They instead took me to the hospital on the 180-day hold. That was Deputy Boyd and Deputy Moody. And then when I was released from the hospital, instead of 180 days, they released me after 5 days. They also made me write all this stuff in fucking crayon, wouldn't allow me access to my phone to show what was actually going on. John Holland had told them that it would feed into my delusions. I'm like, holy shit, these guys are doing everything they can to prevent me from showing them what the fuck is up and trying to get the hospital staff to be fucking hostile towards me. And many of them were, especially a woman named Carly. It might have been Carly. It's written in fucking crayon in here somewhere. There's also a woman named Jessica in pediatrics, and she was so fucking god awful horrible. Her attitude was fucking shitty. And then there was some nice people that worked there. There was a woman named Carissa. Now, Carissa is important because when Carly and Jessica tried to antagonize the situation and create an incident, because, well, as you got to hear me and Brian Wilgus talking about, that little rubber room that they have right inside of the emergency room exit, if you're in that rubber room, you can actually hear what they're saying at the front desk. In that front area, it's carpeted, but inside of the rubber room, it's not. So it's literally a rubber room, no joke. So when you're in there, you hear everything that they're saying out there. The only thing that'll prevent you from hearing everything that the people at the desk there are saying is if you're talking to somebody. And that's where Mary Edith came in. She talked to me the whole time that she worked. She was so pleasant. I don't necessarily agree with some of her beliefs, but we don't have to agree. And she was such a sweetheart. So then, when I got released after 5 days and was trying to organize all this shit again, of course, I'm having to do this through John Holland because of the stuff that he wrote down on here that kept the truth out of it. He should have been smart enough to listen to me the first time when I told him, hey, dude, I got a shit ton of medical paperwork out in my car that shows that I'm autistic. You're treating me like I'm fucking retarded. You're treating me like I'm schizophrenic and delusional. A lot of these guys get offended by the word retarded, but the fact is that is the way they're treating me. The moment you go in alone and you have to tell a mental health worker that you were assaulted by a police officer, the first things that they're going to jump to as a conclusion, especially if they don't want to piss anybody off, we don't even have to finish that sentence, do we? You've seen it time and again. If the cop says that it must be true, never mind the evidence. We don't need that. What a police officer says is evidence. It's kind of like I'm told that it doesn't matter what I said or what I meant. What matters is how it makes the victim feel. Well, holy shit. No, it fucking doesn't. Nobody gives a shit how it makes me feel when I got some sicko getting a hold of me saying that he's going to dismember my niece and send pictures of his cock in her open gutted rib cage if I don't pretend to be a pedophile. So John Holland here wants to pretend that all of this is a delusion, that I had threatened to kill the weekend worker. Oh, really? Prove it. There is a very, very big difference between giving you an example, which, by the way, I have thousands and thousands more examples. There's a big difference between giving an example and threatening to kill somebody. I'm not sure if you noticed, but the very first message that I sent to that, although it had my name spelled wrong, that threat was very much directed very specifically at me. And if you hear Kylie's excuse later on, is that, oh, well, we had an anonymous call that there was supposedly a video and that I should be afraid. So my bosses told me not to call you back and bullshit like that. This is 2026. I've had to go to TFCC since 2022 over the abuse here. Not a goddamn thing has changed. Now we're going to get further into this because, well, you've already gotten to see a lot of the evidence over and over again. These guys here are basically at war with the people at the state hospital, all of the state forensics evaluators. I went through the whole gamut of them. I mean, I had Dr. James Pekanu, state forensics evaluator, or state well, he does the psychological evaluations. Basically, are you fucking fit for court? So I got Dr. James Pekanu of the Oregon State Hospital, Morgan Beckman of the Oregon State Hospital, Dr. Leslie Carter, who is a state psychological evaluator or forensic evaluator. I don't know what it's all written in there as. She's also an autism expert here in the state of Oregon. So that's three of them right there. Okay. There's even more written in there. One of them is kind of a nut job, and I don't think that she should, despite the fact that she did look up the Natalie Bollinger thing, thanks to Deputy Taylor. And thank you again, Deputy Taylor, Deputy Peyton Taylor, number 277 of the Tillamook County Sheriff's Department. Thanks to him doing his due diligence when he recognized that, holy shit, these people aren't taking the 5 minutes or they're looking the other way. Well, we're getting to see that they're looking the other way. The evidence shows it. They were aware of the abuse, and then all of a sudden, this stuff is a delusion, and the police would never do this. No, not ever. So that John Holland one resulted in me being put on a civil hearing or a civil hold. Um, the next one is from Mary Lindsay. This one is from 4/28/2024, aid and assist. It says service location 09, prison or correctional facility, organization TFCC. Now, this lady was very unpleasant. But this one says data, quiet, sleeping. Client continues to present himself as a danger to himself and will remain in booking and be reevaluated in 24 hours jail. Continues on suicide watch till further evaluation. He will continue to be monitored by jail staff. Every 30 minutes, he will be reevaluated in 24 hours. Initial safety plan include protective factors, identified supports, warning signs, access to lethal means, etc. Unable to safety plan due to his inability of orientation. Hmm. So, literally, I would have to do something desperate to get somebody there so that I could turn in the shit that the cops were doing. And then these fucking pathetic idiots would show up. Jesus Christ. It says, oh God, I changed the page already, didn't I? Let's see. This one is from 5/3. The 429 one. Let's see. 429. Inmate was deputies called to request that crisis come out as the client is endorsing SI and is being aggressive and belligerent toward officers. When this CC arrived, he was in the cell under restraints. Now, did she actually see these things? No, she didn't. She assumed that the bullshit that she was being sold was the truth. But then when you look at what the deputies wrote about how I did not fight the restraint chair, this is another one of these things that Detective Raymond wanted to claim that she knew that I fought in the restraint chair because everyone fights the restraint chair. And then we've got stuff from Taylor and stuff from Carrillo and stuff from Moody and stuff from all sorts of other deputies there that all got in trouble for that too. Yeah, Lieutenant Silvera, what's he going to do? Fire every fucking deputy every time they fucking tell the truth? Best he could do is try to limit the contact. Make sure that he's the one who's able to control these situations and decide what's said. What a fucking moron. When this CC arrived, he was in the cell under restraints. So that's where she arrived. I was already in the cell under restraints. This is during the 14 days that I was in there. No attorney. All right. I had to worry about my evidence. Obviously, cops that you're trying to turn in would obviously love to destroy evidence by whatever means, including separating it so the police officer that you're trying to turn in can take a bunch of important evidence with him. And if you don't have somebody who's going to show up within 30 days and either be your power of attorney, or you guys have to get somebody who has a notary to sign it, they can throw away all of your evidence. So I had to worry about my computer here and a lot of other evidence. And my vehicle, which got towed while I was locked up by David Martinez, who's the arresting officer. Imagine that. And I was trying to turn in David Martinez for threats and harassment over the situation of trying to turn in Andrew Wolnez and Mossam Vajan. Yes, he was very threatening. It ain't cool when people are threatening to fucking kill you, swinging fucking pipes at your head, and you're being threatened with goddamn arrest by a fucking pig. Holy hell. It says he continues to endorse agitation, threatening the officers. Really, what threats? I would like to hear the actual evidence of that. I want to hear the evidence of these threats. I want to hear this actual evidence instead of just taking these people's word for it when they have fucked up so greatly. Now, obviously, she was lying at the beginning. She's lying in this part. What does she stand to gain? It says he continues to endorse agitation, threatening the officers, and was beating his head again on the window and smearing what appeared to be blood on the windows and doors, except that I was in a restraint chair. How am I going to be capable of doing that? How am I, a disabled person who is strapped down to a restraint chair improperly and in severe pain in a fucking suicide smock? How am I going to, as she stated, as if she was there, as if it must be the truth? It says that when she got there, I was in the cell under restraints. Now, I can tell you who the deputies were. That was Deputy Boatman and Deputy Barrico. And goddamn, I flooded that motherfucker out. Hell yes. I was pretty proud of myself. You're going to deny me my rights? You're going to neglect me? You're going to make fun of me? You're going to allow your fellow officers and fellow deputies to come have fun with me? No, that shit ain't happening. What does it take to get you to document it? If I tell you, you're just not going to document it, are you? But if I piss on your motherfucking floor, you're going to remember that shit. You'll write that down, won't you? Hell yeah. Is that what I should have to resort to? Fuck no. So then it says, threatening the officers and was beating his head again on the window and smearing what appeared to be blood on the windows and doors. He is currently in restraints. Yeah, obviously, in restraints the whole time. So none of that is anything that she actually saw. This is stuff she is just blindly believing. It says deputies will attempt to take them off once his room is cleaned and he can be safely returned to his cell. He appears to continue his state of delusion. Really? What delusion? It says officers will wait till command is at full capacity to collaborate with administration for further instructions on how to proceed with inmate. Morning staff will do their regular check in. The deputies are aware should they need to transport inmate to a medical facility to reach out again to this CC, and I will meet them at the hospital to help with transition. Now, I'm going to tell you that lady, Lacey Hawkins, that I speak so highly of, although I probably shouldn't, had a very heavy hand in making sure that Mary Lindsay lost her job. It was a little badge of honor. It was a badge of honor that Lacey Hawkins felt the need to brag about to me. That she had a hand in making sure that Mary Lindsay no longer worked there. It says they will meet me at the hospital to help with transition. They had already decided what they were going to do, whatever it takes. Whatever it takes to prevent me from showing the truth. So, this next one, it says this writer attended court for client. This is John Holland on 5/3/2024. Aid and assist. Now, this whole time, I don't have an attorney through any of it. So make sure you can read it. Yep. It says this writer attended court for client. Now, this is a guy that I was trying to turn in 2022. Okay, keep that in perspective. It says this writer attended court for client. Client does not have an attorney. I told you. And the judge did not want to release client. Well, the judge legally had to, and she told John, and she told the courts that John needed to come see me. She told me that she didn't feel comfortable with me being released until me and John, my fucking predator, who I'd been trying to turn in since 2022 over this neglect and abuse. Yeah, so until he and I have a cordial conversation. Now, at this point, we've already reached the legal limit of how long they're actually allowed to keep me. And, well, she decided she was going to keep me a little bit longer. And John didn't show up and didn't show up. And the guards in the jail pulled the same shit that they had been pulling over and over and over again. And we're going to get into some of those. I wrote it down in my jail diary what each individual one of their tactics are, why they use them, how effective they are, and who they're effective on. Primarily disabled people, either people who can't physically defend themselves or people who nobody can listen to because they're called mentally ill. And nearly all the people in jail are fucking homeless. Okay. At any one point in time in America, 81% of those incarcerated were homeless when they were incarcerated. Now, this one right here, it says This writer attended court for the client. Client does not have an attorney, and the judge did not want to release client. Now, because I didn't have an attorney, they got to do whatever the fuck they wanted. Now, judge set the hearing over 1 week and asked the TFCC meet with client and see if it is possible for client to be released. Except he never fucking showed up. He literally never showed up. What ended up happening with him literally just ignoring it the whole time, that entire week, is that finally Lieutenant Silvera and Lieutenant Boyd, or sorry, Sergeant Boyd, who was just a fucking deputy at the time, and Deputy Moody, but Deputy Moody claimed as they were trying to help me out by staging that bullshit where Deputy Ware and the same thing with the first issue with me being strapped in the chair. They strapped it down improperly on purpose. And of course, they want to tell you about, oh, well, it was designed by inmates. Yeah, and you're using it like a fucking idiot. That restraint chair is used to torture inmates who come forward about abuse. That is straight up how it is. And you can't say that because you don't have an attorney. So John Holland gets to make these decisions. And Lieutenant Silvera gets to make these decisions. And Judge Mary Garrick Trevino gets to make these decisions. These are all people that were well aware that I had already told on them. So when I got out of jail, instead of getting out of jail, and I got taken to the hospital. When I got released from the hospital, I had to go back to the hospital the very same day because I got fucking smacked in the head with something. I also had to deal with John Focius fucking screaming at me. I was able to get a recording of one of the youngins that hung out down at the Tillamook Sporting Goods parking lot. He verified that he was at least 18 years of age. And also he verified that Andrew Wolnez's son, Hunter, was in fact and indeed one of the little fuckers down there fucking pulling all of this shit. This is all stuff that I'm supposed to be showing to Brian Wilgus, he left because he was going to have a seizure about his wallet disappearing. And, I expect this. I really do. I don't think that he's going to, I don't think he's going to come back tonight. And I hope he doesn't fucking come back tonight. Because when I'm done with this shit, I'm going to fucking sleep. So, of course, it says the next hearing is scheduled for 5/9 at 1:15. Now, this dude just made sure that this didn't happen. This one right here, Michael McRobert. Who's this guy? Another aid and assist. It says Judge Trevino reported court was unable to assign legal counsel and is likely unable to aid and assist. So they go out of their way to ignore any and all evidence. Any and all evidence. Like all of it. All the stuff that you guys have been looking at. All the stuff that I've been posting up. This all comes down to these are apparently schizophrenic delusions, except that we've got the documentation that they're not. You guys have that evidence at your fingertips. It says, this is on 5/9. Judge Trevino reported court was unable to assign legal counsel and is likely unable to aid and assist. Client is not a candidate for a community restoration. Well, what's community restoration? That's where you're a goddamn drug addict and you go into a fucking housing with a bunch of goddamn drug addicts. Of course, that's not how they present it. It says a state forensic evaluation would take too long to schedule. So, literally, there's no actual person in any of this who's got the credentials to fucking say any of this. Not one of them. None of these people are a state forensic evaluator. Not a single goddamn one. You know what Leslie Carter is? A state forensic evaluator. Do you know what James Paycanu is? A state forensic evaluator. How about Ashley Astoup? Oh, she's also a state forensic evaluator. And also, Well, Morgan Beckman, MD. Absolutely. These are state forensics evaluators, and none of them were willing to call me schizophrenic or delusional because the abuse by police is well documented. Also, the abuse by the local communities everywhere I go is well documented. Amazing how that works. So they basically tried to tried to do the same thing that Scott DaCosta did. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. So these people coordinated together to punish me for speaking up. They still ain't shut me up. It says, um, let's see, client is not a candidate for community restoration. A state forensic evaluation would take too long to schedule, and the judge did not want to warehouse the client in jail. Judge Trevino dismissed the case. That's not okay. There was too much evidence of abuse for that case to be dropped, for them to pretend that I was so called schizophrenic, delusional, mentally ill, whatever. It says assessment. Client appeared in court from Tilco jail via WebEx. Client was quiet during hearing. Hmm. You mean I wasn't screaming at the top of my lungs that I was going to kill people? It's amazing how when the judge in a courtroom can hear it, they'll be just slightly a little more honest about it, almost sort of. It says jail staff reported client banging head against the wall and was restrained in a chair. When the client is released from jail, he will be transported to the ER, placed on a hold, and referred to a higher level of care. And that did not happen. Now, they had to have a bunch of people sign their goddamn names to this. And like I said, Tammy Waddell is right in the fucking center of it. Look at that shit. That's right. So they, as I told you, took me to the hospital on bullshit. When your daughter cuts on herself, it's because you're not fucking listening and she's got no place else to go. How about you stop being a goddamn predator, pull your head out of your ass and do your goddamn job? So, how about this one? Here's one from 5'9" as well that is crisis screening crap. Let's see. Here it says Mary Lindsay on 5/10/2024. It says patient was calm, cooperative, and engaged. Patient was with nurse working on his head injury. Patient was in hospital scrubs, had a plate from breakfast. Very sweet. Assessment. Patient continues on his fixed delusions of being harassed due to the murder of his friend. Denies SIHI and continues to refuse any medication. I wasn't offered any medication. I wasn't offered any medication. How can I refuse a medication I wasn't offered? This has been consistent. Now you can go ahead and ask. There's a guy in here. Hold on. He was one of the nurses, and he was the one who primarily gave me my medications. Since I continually had mental health people that were sent, apparently, these appointments were set up by Lieutenant Silvera, and these mental health people kept on saying, "Are you taking your medications?" I'm not prescribed any medications. It says here you're prescribed blah, 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 blah. I'm like, what's that? Well, it's for schizophrenia. Ah, well, no, I'm not taking that. And no, it hasn't been fucking prescribed for me. And I will go ask the jail staff because they kept pulling this in the jail over and over and over again. So when I'm in the hospital and these hospital people are, you know, obviously not giving me medications or asking me for medications, it's something that I'm going to pay attention to. It's something I'm gonna write down. When I was later put in for 15 months, and I had to go through this with Kruby, and I had to go through this with, well, multiple of their mental health people. Well, fuck that. Are you fucking insane? No, I'm gonna go with somebody who's willing to spend 5 minutes on the internet and realize that I'm not fucking retarded. Lazy shits. So it says, and continues to refuse any medications. States he is not crazy. It appears that he is unaware of his behaviors or his delusions. So that's from 5/10/2024. This is after I've already gotten a permanent protection order against Andrew Wolnez and been prevented from showing that evidence in court. Sure, I got the protection order, but Judge Trevino never looked at the evidence. And John Holland and all of his buddies got to play on that. See, this isn't like a situation where I was diagnosed with something. Like I'd never been diagnosed before, and they just realized that I have an issue and so on. No, you guys have seen assault after assault on this channel. You've gotten to hear Andrew Wolnez and many others specifically by name use Natalie Bollinger as their excuse. Are they writing down specifically what it is that I'm telling them, or are they just making up whatever the fuck they want? Well, the fact is, they're making up whatever the fuck they want. So, there's more here. There's a lot more. They just continued with that crap over and over again, using hospital staff to antagonize me. Of course, I'd been trying to turn in the hospital staff too. So if I wake up at a decent hour tonight, because I'll probably fucking wake up in excruciating pain in like 2 hours, I'll get on here and start digging through and start posting a bunch of that shit. Start bringing up a bunch of the evidence and links in the bottom and taking pictures of this shit. A bunch of my subscribers are likely to leave tomorrow because I'm going to be posting a bunch of posts, and they're going to get notification after notification. It sucks, but it's realistic. Now, this woman's name is Catherine Seas. And, of course, with them trying to go out of their way to ignore my diagnoses, starting in 2022, Tammy Waddell, John Holland, Catherine Seas, Mike McKinster. If he'd have stayed there, I'd have never been assaulted. If he'd have stayed there, Catherine Seas wouldn't have been able to bully me the way that she did. But that's not how it all went down, is it? Nope. As a result, I had to try to turn that into the police. Trent Olson, who is just a dick. And that's recorded on my YouTube channel as well, over and over again. We'll post up some of the links of the assaults by Andrew Wolnez. He broke the protection order again today. I gave Brian Wilgus $100 to go get a telephone. He was supposed to come right back, and Jesus fucking Christ. Now it says, please list physician named, and you can see that it says Stephanides. That's the one from 1/28/2023. Over a year earlier. Yeah. This has been going on since I got to fucking Tillamook. I filmed shit in Hood River The Dalles, Oregon, Astoria, Oregon, Warrenton, Oregon. What the hell is wrong with you guys? I really want to know. So Brian Wilgus hasn't done anything today except take $100 and not come back with it, not help out at all, not do anything useful in the least bit. So there's more of this, and we'll make sure we post up everything. You guys know that Natalie Bollinger isn't a delusion. You know that Andrew Wolnez is not a delusion. You know that Ted Bollinger isn't a delusion. You know that Tim Beeson is not a delusion. You know that Candace Bondurant is not a delusion. You know the threats against my sister and against my niece. You know that these are not delusions. And now you know how telling the truth as a homeless male is treated when you're allowed to use mental health to discredit your victims, when you were allowed to steal their evidence, when you were allowed to physically assault them, when you were allowed to lie about them to mental health to affect their court. Now, Judge Mary Trevino belongs in prison. John Holland belongs in prison. Catherine Cias belongs in prison. These people belong in prison. They are predators. Not every predator is sexual. These people are worse. The damage they create is lifelong. It prevents victims from being able to have an honest day in court or from being heard when they're beaten or raped or stolen from. How it's made out to be their fault. They must be drug addicts. If they don't have drugs in their system, then you'll just make something up and say, oh, well, he has a history of drug use. Really? Really, what history of drug use and what drugs? Oh, you mean the pharmaceuticals? When I was a kid, the pharmaceuticals that doctors decided, holy shit, that is definitely the wrong thing to do to a human being, and told me, hey, we're going to take you off of all of those medications that you're on. Because we think that most of the problems with you are side effects of your medications. And they took me off those meds and I did fine until I hurt my back. And then you pretend that I'm schizophrenic and delusional as your excuse to look the other way. Or you pretend I'm a pedophile or a rapist or a murderer. And I got to deal with living in Chapel, Nebraska at 15 with people telling me that I'm going to be a rapist and a murderer and a fucking serial killer and all sorts of creepy shit. And just because they wanted to project it onto me doesn't make it true. Doesn't mean that I have to go out and fucking hack people to pieces. That's just stupid. So I had this stuff organized so I could show it to Brian, who just didn't fucking show up again. He showed up earlier to tell me that he had to take his dog home, and then he showed up here to make a big show about how he lost his fucking wallet. No, he's going to get fucking junked out of his gourd more than likely, but I'm not allowed to say that because he's trying to pretend that he's sober right now, which is, I'd like to believe him, but I also see that he's exhibiting the same exact traits as the other drug addicts that are still admitting at least that they're drug addicts. He's exhibiting the same exact traits, and he's also falling asleep during shit and fucking snoring through it. And I'm like, Jesus fucking Christ, why am I even making an attempt? So I give him $100 for a phone. What are the chances he's gonna call me? He might show up tonight. He might show up tomorrow. He might fucking overdose. Who knows? Now these are things that I definitely have to be afraid of. I'm not fucking stupid when fucking drug addicts are doing the same shit they did when they were fucking strung out. They're probably still strung out. I mean, seriously. So I'm trying to believe him. He didn't bring me my money back, didn't bring me my change like he was supposed to. Said he was going to make it quick. Every time he says that, I know that it is going to literally be hours before he shows back up. He's not going to keep his word. I don't believe that any of these people are actually going to keep their word. If I give them money, they're just going to fucking run off with it. They're not going to be respectful with it. What it is to them is another fucking bump. I'm tired of this. I'm tired of ending up with more work at the end of the day than I fucking started with. No matter how many hours I put into this, no matter how many hours I showed that I was trying to do the right thing and sending that stuff to the fucking TFCC investigator, and how did John Holland and Mary Lindsay play it off? And I'm still going through this. I'm still having to rely on drug addicts to turn in fucking crooked cops. I got a permanent protection order, but the dumb cunt judge didn't bother to look at any goddamn evidence and didn't give a shit. Her name is Mary Garrick Trevino. She does belong in prison. She knew what she was doing was wrong. She was not impartial. Every fucking court date that I had with that woman needs to be requisitioned. We need to have the actual footage from the courts. They went out of their way to let me know no matter what, I'm not going to be allowed to speak. I'm not going to be allowed to show the truth. I'm not going to be allowed to show evidence. No, they already decided that they were going to fucking punish me for coming forward about them, for speaking about how they're worse than fucking pedophiles and why. All this shit I got to keep in my goddamn pocket. And of course, we've got a whole bunch of this shit. Like I said, I got them from fucking Nebraska too. This is one from Nebraska. It says very clearly that I am not schizophrenic or delusional. That lady doesn't have as big of letters behind her name, does she? That's Marcia Estrada. Yeah. She doesn't have as big of letters behind her name as Dr. James Pecanu, does she? Nope, she certainly don't. But she's also not the only mental health specialist that I saw there. There's also Dr. Orada, Ourada, who also has the letters behind his name to make these diagnoses. And he stated very clearly that I was not schizophrenic or delusional. You know why? He looked something up. As soon as the prosecutor in Dual County realized that Dr. Orada was not going to comply with their railroading, they claimed that this Hartman doctor was uh, retired after they tried to have his first assessment, right? So then they pretended that he was retired and that he couldn't be called in to show him the stuff that Dr. Arata had wanted me to show him and wanted me to tell him the next time that I saw Dr. Hartman. So then it turned out Dr. Hartman was supposedly retired, so he couldn't. So then they reassigned it to Dr. Arata, and Dr. Arata knew that I wasn't schizophrenic or delusional. So when they realized that Dr. Arata wasn't going to call me schizophrenic or delusional, then they apparently pulled Mr. Hartman out of retirement. Now, if you look at the stuff that they wanted to claim versus what I said, as always, the things these fucking idiots want to pretend are delusions, you guys get to see on my channel every day. Every day I try to post shit up. Every day I speak up about the abuse. Every day I show evidence of the abuse. I show why these situations happened. And of course, I am forced into a situation where, as a disabled adult, I am having to rely on fucking junkies who are robbing me of fucking house and home. But who gives a shit? At least the important stuff, they know not to fucking steal. You don't steal someone's fucking wallet. Ever, under any circumstances. Especially not their fucking ID. If you're gonna steal their wallet because they fucking beat on you for no good fucking reason while you were passed out, well, there's street justice to be had. But even in that case, you don't take their ID. Ever. Now we've gotten to read from this, a lot of this crap from Catherine Cias. Now let's read what Dr. Pekanu had to say. Mr. Schwartz demonstrated good insight about mental illness, including describing others who he observed that appeared to clearly have symptoms of thought disorder. That would be like schizophrenia, delusional disorder, things of that nature. And he was able to articulate reasons that he did not believe such issues applied to him. He understood why others had concerns about his mental health and the possible presence of a thought disorder. His judgment with regard to interactions with me and others, including his attorney, was considered to be good. Additionally, he demonstrated good judgment with regard to discussion of various legal issues related to competency assessment. Now let's get to the juicy parts here. Now let's start off with, here's the last page. Dr. James Pekanu, MD. Okay, that's the dude right there. Dr. James Pekanu. Got letters behind his name and everything. Aren't you proud of me? Got me my grade 3. See, it says, it is my opinion that the mood symptoms he reports are attributable to post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, not schizophrenia, not delusional disorder. Matter of fact, it states very, very clearly in here that I do not have delusional disorder and that I do not have schizophrenia, that I do not experience hallucinations, that I do not appear to be, what did he say? Something internal stimuli. I am not reacting to internal stimuli. Let's see. He wrote down about Natalie Bollinger's death, which he absolutely looked up, and we've already shown that on here as well. Diagnostic impressions, he said post-traumatic stress disorder, absolutely. Fucking right there. And I'm sorry I didn't go through these nicely. Like I said, I've been trying to get all this stuff done and having to hurry up and wait on people who are on fucking tweaker time. Like, what am I supposed to do? Keep throwing money and resources at people who don't come forward. They don't keep their words. Well, like Brian was saying, he was claiming that he saw Tiffany fucking spend all that money on powder. What am I supposed to do? I can't go to the police, and I can't keep wasting my money on fucking drug addicts. The evidence is obviously real, but the help is non existent. I'm tired of this. Fucking tired of it.